Today we shall reflect on the theme, Jesus the true bread. Now we see that all of us, we have certain desires and all of us want certain things in life. Now yesterday in the gospel we see that Jesus told us that we need to focus on the things that will last forever. And today Jesus asks each one of us if we are hungry for the bread of life. Similarly, we see that the bread of life discourse is one of the most important discourses in the life of Jesus, especially in the ministry of Jesus, because Jesus tries to convey a lot to the people through this phrase, the bread of life. Because Jesus is the true bread of life, the one who's come down from heaven in order to redeem us from sin and slavery. A glance at today's first reading tells us another fact of life. The truth is always bitter. Now it depends. The truth can set us free if we are open-minded. But if we are rigid, close-minded and not willing to change, the truth can indeed be bitter and then can cause a lot of restlessness and resentment in us. And therefore we see in the story of Stephen. Stephen stood up in the court and there he bore witness to Christ by saying that the people were cold-hearted. So he accused the people of killing Jesus, who had done so many great things, but still the people were ungrateful and they killed him. And he also told them that even some of their ancestors had not listened to the prophets. The prophets had come, had told them many things, but they had given a deaf ear towards them. And thus he showed them their long history of being closed and cold-hearted. And with this, the cold-hearted court officials did not like this. They were filled with anger and therefore they took him out of the city and stoned him. But just before his death we see that Stephen prays and forgives his murderers. We see in our world today, those who bear witness to Christ have to face a lot of persecution, a lot of trial. Sometimes, for no fault of theirs, they even end up giving their lives. But here we see that what matters is the perseverance in the faith. We see that these people, right till the end of their life, still hold on to the faith and still bear witness to Christ. In today's gospel, we see the reason why Jesus says that he is the bread of life. Now probably you might be wondering, why suddenly the discourse of the bread of life comes into the gospel? Now we see in those days, there was a strong rabbinic belief that the Messiah would bring bread from heaven. And therefore we see that the scribes and the Pharisees wanted Jesus to produce manna in order to prove his claim that he is the Son of God. And what does Jesus tell them? Jesus tells them that he himself is the bread of life. Jesus also told them that it was not Moses, but it was God who had given their ancestors manna in the desert. And that manna was not the bread, but it was only of the symbol of the bread to come. And thus we see Jesus then makes the claim that he is the bread of life. And we see this in the institution of the Eucharist, where Jesus broke the bread, gave it to his disciples and said, all of them who eat of this and partake of this will be then given new life. And it is the bread of life which Jesus gives us, and this is indeed the life of God. This can satisfy the spiritual hunger that is there in our hearts. As we saw yesterday, spiritual hunger can be satisfied only by God. And through this bread of life, Jesus gives us an opportunity to satisfy our spiritual needs. The bread which Jesus offers us sustains the disciples on their long journeys. And similarly, it also sustains us when we are faced with challenges, trials and temptations. Above all, when we partake of the bread of Christ, this bread then unites us and brings us into a much deeper relationship with Jesus. And as we reflect on this gospel, let us also pray for the grace that today we may be able to experience this love of Christ, and above all that we may thirst for the Christ, and above all that we may hunger for the bread of life, so that we too may be able to share this with those around us. Amen.